shouting for help. Then you became, in a sense, a human encyclopedia because people, naging directory kayo, people were looking for, but media is not trained to fulfill these functions. I mean, beyond echoing the call for help. So, Bayanihan Online comes in because sila yung secretarial service. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's what happened. Sir, now this brings up the government.
Were you
because,
listening?
Yeah.
To
Yeah, did you hear us? No, just kidding.
And looking at online, NDCC.
Oh, good.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I remember at 10 o'clock, thereabout, Secretary Chodoro was talking with DCRH. And immediately he announced that the NDCC was marshalling all the assets of the armed forces and the PNP because at that point, it was realized that the situation was overwhelming. There was traffic jam everywhere. The whole length of EDSA was jammed. And Secretary Chodoro reached the NDCC by way of MRT. Una siya nakapag-decide, so he was there ahead of me. And most of the calls were from parents who went out because they thought it was going to be a good day, went mauling, went somewhere, and then they realized they left their children, they were trapped on the on the roof with their katulong, etc. And we were receiving this type of calls, 4 blackboards were not enough to list down the priorities.
Sir, ano yung prosesong sinusundan nyo when you were filling these blackboards with calls? Because for example, ang nangyari sa Bayanihan and with Gang and Alvin, ang mga tao online, they were the ones who were actually the human blackboards putting it all together. And then, in fact, later on in our discussion, we'll be seeing may mga nag-invento pa ng mga sistema kung paano itatrack yung mga nawawala, kung sinong na-rescue. In your case, because you guys are the pros, and yet you were faced with a situation that was unprecedented in its extent.
Yeah.
How did you ramp up your existing systems?
Yeah, the first few hours, the job of the NDCC is to coordinate. So much of the communication was tied up trying to reach the city government because there is supposed to be a city disaster coordinating council and make sure there is a manual for that. Make sure that they have set up an disaster emergency center. So we're trying to make immediately a connection to this.
How long did it take you to reach them?
But it turned out that a lot of people were bypassing. They could not reach also their disaster centers. In the past, it was working, so they got used to calling on their respective city disaster centers. But this time, maybe they were not getting anything. They were calling also the NDCC. The media was also calling the NDCC, and many parents, sisters, brothers were also calling the NDCC.
What was the best thing that you did at that time when all of these was happening and you couldn't reach the city governments and people were calling you? So what were you doing?
Well, immediately we thought that our communication system is not enough. For example, with DCMM, we posted a PNP. Yeah, so that the public immediately on that same day, General Batawil of the PNP CMO was with Secretary Chodoro of the NDCC, making sure that there are policemen in some of the
radio stations.
That's right.
Okay.
And immediately Secretary Chodoro was in contact with Jotaru, also disseminating.
Sir, if I'm getting you correctly, you're simultaneously undertaking at least 3 separate kinds of communications with the media, with the public, with government, within the government, and then with your
MMDA and the city government,
and then with your people in the field. Because now this brings up Captain Karayat left.
Dennis. So
how
where
you
did you
stay
get your
in contact
to do your rescue? Saan mo nakuha yung information where to go and what to do?
Actually, ma'am, yung alala ko ng 26 ng umaga na yon, sa second ID, nag-convene kagad yung battle staff namin. Headed by Colonel Gadot, yung chief of staff ng 2ID. Then, during sa battle staff namin, ma'am, doon na may mga text messages na ma'am na-receive na yung Tanay ay medyo malalim na yung tubig. Ngayon, inutosan ako ma'am ng chief of staff namin na mag-reinforce kami o magtulong kaagad. Nagdala kami ma'am ng isang platon, to include may tali kami nadala. Bumaba kami sa bayan kaagad ng Tanay. Nabutan namin doon sa may tandang kutyo. Doon na, medyo mataas na ma'am yung tubig. nakikita natin doon na yung tao doon na naaanod na sila. Naaanod, then doon ang ginawa namin kaagad, nagtulong-tulong tayo ng tropa. Unang ginawa is tinali natin yung katawan natin o dahil sa utility rope na yun para for the purpose na safe tayo habang nag-rescue. Naka-rescue tayo ng 6 na tao na naagaw natin doon yung buhay nila na malulunod na sa tubig. Kaya, pero mas marami pa ma'am yung hindi namin nakuha dahil sa lakas talaga ng alo ng tubig na at saka biglaan.
So yung message na nakuha nyo sa text dun sa Chief of Staff nyo, nanggaling kanino yon? Tigaron sa Tanay?
Doon sa Tanay mismo.
Hindi
sa
ito
bayan.
galing sa NDCC, hindi galing sa police, hindi galing sa radyo.
Sa mga contacts ng mga nakakilala doon, yung mga kaibigan natin na nagtawag ng text na yung Tanay medyo tumataas na yung
Tapos
tubig.
yung order para gawin mo yung ginawa mo ay instinct lang nyo o talagang SOP ninyo? Meron na kayong pamamaraan na pinaiiral sa grupo ninyo?
Actually, may mga ready na tayo ma'am na preparation during the time na alam na natin na may bagyo na coming, then assessment na namin na bakit pag tumaas yung tubig, kami kaagad yung madideploy.
Captain,
Kaya naka-ready kami.
bago kayo mag-deploy, habang kayo nandun kayo, nagde-deploy kayo at nung habang naghumintay kayo ng bagong utos, paano dumarating sa inyo yung mga utos, yung mga information? Text ba ang ginagamit nyo? May radyo ba kayo? Or anong
May
sistema?
nagmo-monitor din sir sa radyo, then may text messages din dahil may TOC tayo.
Sa DZMM?
Radyo AM
Radyo ng
FM
AFP.
o two-way radio?
Sa two-way radio ma'am.
Sa two-way radio.
Okay, so balikan natin yung ating mga on the air mga tao. What was the most frustrating part? You had all of this information. Did you think na nakakatulong ka? Did you think na may tumutulong sa'yo? Ano ang pakiramdam mo doon?
For me, the most frustrating part is we were giving numbers of the rescue, the rescue hotlines, the NDCC, and then we would get a return call saying no one was answering or busy, or let's call DZMM or just call DZMM. It was so interesting how I felt for certain waves that the caller was just going around, like call the NDCC called DZMM. Kami on air, we would say, if you have electricity and you're listening to DZMM right now, tell us what you think we should be saying on FM. So really the information was going around. I wish there was one central filtering place that would actually make the information just go one way where it should have gone. Maraming na waste na time going around for, like, kawawa naman yung isang nasa on top of a roof, on the roof of his house, had to call him first and then called me because they could hear our phone number on air. Nung nawala na siya ng electricity, FM na lang. And then, nauubusan na siya ng cellphone battery. So, the waste of time, and the waste of energy, literally, was so frustrating.
Paano nyo na-validate lahat ng mga impormasyon na natatanggap nyo at without validation ay binobroadcast ninyo, Alvin?
We just air it. There's no time to validate.
Wala kayong
I had a formula.
pamamaraan whether it
Ako
is true or
meron akong formula.
binobola lang
Manolo.
tayo.
I would rely on Manolo to validate Ron Cruz of ANC as well as other network people, my friends from the other network as well. So I would validate from them. Or I personally knew the people who lived in the area and they were telling me that our water's still here, wala pang boat.
There was no way na sila ay nag-iimbento o nagdadrama sila.
Either kakilala ko sila or taga-network sila na nag-filter.
Sa inyo, Mary Rose, did you think you had to validate it to be able to come up kung totoo nga yung mga pinagsasabi nila? Because somebody might give you a false address, nagpapunta ka doon na magre-rescue tapos hindi naman pala doon. I mean those kinds of concerns, hindi ba pumasok sa isip mo yon?
At that point, the calls were immediate talaga. So, kailangan na namin ng tulong. We had really no time to validate. We just wanted to disseminate it kagad. So that if ever man it's true, edi good. If ever it's bad, oh well. We felt it was a necessary risk na probably it's not true. Pero, kailangan pa rin.
At saka pag,
Well,
at saka pag i-weigh mo yung
Tina,
most minutes.
Arlene Burgos is here with us
Yes,
and she was with
yeah,
Botomoy
of course.
Patrol mo.
Yeah.
I-raise ko lang, yung Botomoy Patrol mo was configured to receive reports from citizens.
Okay.
I think I got my very first emergency report at about 3 p.m. So, between 3 p.m. 4 p.m. I was trying to call the NDCC. Sorry, sir. Pero, yung first sagot yata sa akin came at about 5 p.m. And this was a man trapped in the roof with a 3-month-old baby. And then I was asking them, you have to give me something concrete na sasabihin nyo na pupunta kayo doon. That's one. And then I was asking them, marami akong calls na nakukuha, saan ko ipadadala to?